We are back on MorningLine. Thanks for joining us. Sharon Roberson's with us. She's the president and CEO of YWCA. Always a good topic, talking about the services available out there for folks in domestic abuse. And we did talk about the cosmetology school. It does cover then manicurists,
yes,
skin treatments, as well as hairstyling and barbers, right? So all those. That makes sense. So they'll see things, and that's just taking effect. Do you think that's going to increase a spike in your calls?
It probably will, because even some of those that go through the training may have additional questions and they may reach out. And we have seen, actually, this has gone global for us. We have a relationship with Barbicide that really came about just organically almost. That's the product that's used to clean and sanitize the blue liquid.
The blue liquid that they put the combs in. I know what you're talking about.
And they put our training on their website, and they have an international presence, and we've been our training has gone to about 25,000 people worldwide. And so this is really just the start of a movement of letting people understand, and it's been so well received by people all over the world.
That's awesome. Does the YWCA provide any training in self-defense, or would you refer them if someone wanted to learn more about how they could defend themselves if someone comes at them?
We don't provide that training.
What do you think of that? What do you think of that idea?
I would say that anything that you have to do to keep yourself safe is important. And I think that each individual has to really determine whether or not that will work for them.
Okay, so it could be case by case.
Correct.
Whether or not
every case is very specific to you.
Okay, but that's something, and when they do come in, once they're brought in to the shelter in an emergency situation, after they get settled in, initially just the basics, I mean, do they then meet with a counselor?
Oh, yes.
How long? I mean, what does that entail? Because you're sitting down and let's go over your history and everything. I mean, some of them may come in and they weren't on your radar until they called.
Correct. And there's a full intake process. And first of all, we try to make sure the individual gets comfortable, because most individuals have been very traumatized, especially the children. So we give you treats, we treat you like your family, because you get something to eat, you get to relax, you get to decompress. We make you understand how safe you are. And then we work with you. And we have counseling services. We have a full children's program where the children can have activities and play, and they also can get therapy services. And we work with you on your goals, on where do you want to be going forward. Do you want to work on housing? Do you want to work on your education? Do you want to get a job? Do you have a job? If you have one, do you feel safe? How you can stay safe going to work, because some people continue to go to work from shelter.
But Scott, probably before they can answer those questions, I'm trying to put myself in their shoes. I would just think, I just can't even consider any of that. I'm just glad I'm out of that situation. And then I'd be scared, thinking to myself, I don't know what I'm going to do now. And I know you're offering options there, but it must be a few days. I mean, it could be a few weeks, just because, like you said, you just got to decompress after what you've been through.
And your case managers, and I will say that especially during COVID, the cases were much more severe, and that was very disturbing. And that was difficult for our staff to see, especially children who had been battered. That is the most difficult thing that you will ever see.
By the way, when the children come in there, you talked about the services, but they're going to fall behind in their schooling, won't they?
Well, they will probably be behind, but we're doing everything we can so that they won't be. We were actually gifted with computers, so they have access to computers. We had them doing their Zoom lessons from the Weaver Center, so they made sure they stayed on board. They probably were more disciplined at the Weaver Center than they might have been at home, because we made sure, or attempted to make sure, that they did not lose that part of their lives, because they have been through so much.
In some of the stories I've covered where there have been domestics, or it's turned really violent, somehow a component is that, besides drinking, can be drugs, things like methamphetamine. And it could even be that the victim then is addicted to something, because of whatever the situation is at home. Have you seen some of that, maybe? And just the scourge of meth and opioids. Most
definitely. And I always will say this, and it's absolutely true. Drugs do not, or alcohol, they don't cause domestic violence. It's just that they may release inhibitions that lead people to do what they would do anyway.
Meaning the propensity is already there.
Yes.
But you have some kind of check that keeps you from stepping over that line.
Yeah, because there are many people that drink a lot that don't are not batteries.
Right, of course.
But it does sometimes release, I guess, your inhibitions and lead to a violent act. And in fact, some people do these workarounds because they know when the person's drinking, they need to stay away because of the cycle of domestic violence.
And then is it different with meth and opioids than drinking? I mean,
I don't know. I don't know. I will say that we do have
treatment for it, or
we do have a great deal of meth abuse in this state that needs to be addressed, and that just is destroying families, all just from the victims and abusers.
Yeah, you see it. It's
because
just
victims
awful.
Also self-medicate because of the pain.
Sure. Looking for a way, meaning they may be hesitant to go to a doctor even.
Correct.
Because of what would be revealed. Is there a breakdown on demographic? If I were to all of a sudden walk through and look into the various rooms at the shelter, would I walk away with the vast majority of them are maybe families or women in between 20 and 40? Am I going to see some senior citizens in there? What's the demo?
We do have some, but it really varies. But if you walked into Weaver Center right now, you would see such a mixture of people. It would be
really?
Shocking to you.
All ethnicities?
Correct.
But I mean,
but they tend to be younger women, you know, women who are, I guess, childbearing age is what people always say, even those on the single side. Sometimes you will get an older woman, but typically they are younger women.
How do you handle it when you have one of them that comes in and for whatever reason all of a sudden says, no, I'm ready to leave, I want to get out of here, and you know that it's unsafe. The guys out there, police are even telling you it's unsafe, and she insists. Again, it's not a prison, we know that. How do you handle a situation like that?
Well, we believe in empowering people, and we will give you all the information that we can to help you understand.
But if you know she walks out of there, her life's going to be in danger.
And it's happened. It
has.
But people they have to make their own decisions. It's not a prison. We cannot keep you. We will provide you with information that lets you understand the magnitude of the decision you're making. But if they decide to go back, which, you know, it usually takes 7 times for an individual to leave a person.
Is that right? Seven times of being
average.
Physically abused?
And coming back. Because there's always a hope that things will be better, and it's really a difficult thing to get out there on your own sometimes, and that's why you really need a lot of support in place.
So if they do leave, and just law enforcement can be made aware of it. I mean, what do you think of orders of protection anyway? Well,
orders of protections are important because they are really a proof of a situation that has occurred, and there are individuals that abide by them. They understand they don't want to get arrested.
Typically, the way that works is if there's an order of protection in place, you are not to, call, mail. Meaning, if you're at Kroger and you see her down at the end, you got to turn around and go the other way. You can't be physically with it, and that could be just happenstance. You're at Kroger and there she is. You better get your butt out of there, because if you get close to her, that's a violation of the order. Yeah,
and the orders of protection are very important. They're a very important piece of the puzzle, but they aren't the only piece, because even with the order of protection, you have to be very vigilant, because there are people who are killed in this community who have orders of protection in place.
All the time?
Yeah.
Is there any other thing that can be done besides order of protection, besides flat locking someone up? Any other orders?
No, there's order of protections and them actually being, locked away. But I think there, are laws in place to enforce those, but it's very difficult because a lot of it depends on whether or not the person wants to abide by this. And you have people that will kill people understanding that they may go to jail because it's that strong a desire to control the individual.
To control, and then they're gone. One reason I like having you on when we do these shows is just, if you've been listening, there's help out there, and you've got wonderful people like this that can lead you that way. Do we have the contact information, and maybe you can walk us through just, okay, if someone calls that number, what is it going to be like? Okay, they're calling it, they dial it up, someone picks up, and what are they going to hear?
They're going to talk to you. They're going to say, how can they help you?
Is it recorded?
No, it's not.
Okay.
You could say, how could they help you? And they could say, well, I'm in this situation, and they'll walk you through. Or I know someone that's like this. They'll walk you through. They won't ask you for information that you don't want to divulge. If you want them to, work your way so you can get into the Weaver Center, that's, it depends on the circumstance. But it's very much confidential unless you want to provide your information.
That's right. So you may say, I don't want to give you my name or where I live right now, but
this is my situation.
This is my situation. What do you think? The bottom line is, if they've taken the time to call that number or to text, they want details. It's not like you're not reaching out to them. Now, would there be a situation where you then would call them back?
Well, if they do provide for that, they can allow you to do that, but that's only if they allow you to. For instance, if we heard something that went off there, you know, of course, there's always 911 in the circumstances, but it really depends on what they want. And we give the power to the individual. So no one should hesitate to call thinking they're going to trace this call, they're going to find out who I am, I'm going to get in trouble, I'm going to be worse off. No, we don't do that.
Okay. And so is it your hope, as we're wrapping it up now that we're coming out of the pandemic, that things, I know you saw a spike and it was very difficult during the pandemic, so many people at home, and the stressors that just come with being in a darn pandemic made things worse. What about now coming out? What is your hope that we're going to see? I mean, the numbers are still up. They may come down a bit because you're out of the pandemic, but there's still financial stresses on families.
Well, see, that's the thing. Even though we are coming out of the pandemic from the vaccine and health perspective, we are still very much in it from an economic perspective. And economic stress is one of the key stressors for domestic
Just arguing
violence.
over money?
Just the whole thing, not having enough, not deciding what to spend it on, what's going to happen with the children, going back to school. The stressors are still within the community, and we're not finished with that.
Does there need to be another YWCA shelter, or is this one?
We would love to have more
What's the
beds.
biggest needs then right now? You said the beds at the current shelter 60?
65.
65, and again, it can vary depending on what kind of families you have coming in. But you think the community could use?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely, we could need more. We could use more beds for the sole fact that people really need probably 90 to 120 or more days in order to really move the needle on how they can move forward with their lives. Right now, the 60 days, that's an emergency situation. We just stabilize you and give you the opportunity to move forward, but most of it has to happen once you leave shelter. If we could have people in there even for 6 months, that would be a game changer.
Which would be great. But that would mean, like, if you had another facility where you could send them after that critical period to a new location. The stumbling block on that, of course, is the money, the cost, and the property, and all of that, right? Most of the time, will other family members step up? Because where do they go when they come out if they can no longer go back to the apartment they were at?
It really depends. Some get other places to live. We have a transitional housing program. We have a wonderful volunteer-led program, Renew, where they make a house into a home. They take an apartment that a woman and her children would normally move into that's just a bare bones apartment. And we have a warehouse and donated furniture, and they make it into a home, and they're absolutely beautiful. One of the leaders of that program is a professional designer. So some people may get their house decorated in Green Hills and Belle Meade. You'll have the same person decorating it.
So it looks really nice. That's beautiful. Awesome. So they have a comfortable place to go. Because I was going to think, too, sometimes financially, when they get out of that situation, the abuser, if they were married, I mean, if it's a joint account or the money, you guys help them get access to their resources? I mean, let's say there's a bank account, but the guy's like, well, this is mine, you can't have it, leave it alone, she's not here. How do you get to the money?
Well, we work through that. We work through the specific financial situations because financial untanglement is very, very difficult. And so that's something that we have to work individuals through, how to get their own money in their name. If they are working at a job, direct deposit, get their own account so that they can start that financial control of their lives.
You help them file for divorce?
Well, actually, legal services may do some of that work.
But I mean, if they say, listen, I'm out of here, I want a divorce, you can point them.
We don't provide those services, but we can put you in touch with individuals that can help you.
Okay. Let's put up that number one more time, and we'll do it again at the end of the show as people watch this. That's the 800 number. And again, it's not just for Nashville. I mean, you can call that number if you're just about anywhere in our viewing area, and they'll find a way to try to refer you to where you can get some help. 334-4628. Again, that's a free call, of course, 1-800. Or you can text 615-983-5170. 24-hour crisis and support helpline.
Yes.
Even once in a while, Sharon might answer the phone. Thank you, Ms. Roberson.
Thank you so much for having me.
It is a pleasure seeing you. We'll see you again, and I wish you the best with this. I think these new pieces of legislation will make a difference.
Thank you.
I think it's fantastic. We'll take a break, back programming note about tomorrow, and we'll give you that info one more time if you didn't write those numbers down. Thanks again.
Thank you.